Hello folks, Rob Dreemeyer here. Welcome to Broadway Barfly.
If you're a theater fan who loves a great cocktail, click that subscribe button because Broadway Barfly is the channel for you.
Since this episode is circulating during Gay Pride, it's a perfect opportunity for us to discuss Judy Garland. Judy Garland was considered one of the greatest entertainers of the 20th century, and Broadway played a small but special role in her career. After having starred in over 25 films at MGM, she returned to her vaudeville roots. In 1951, she played a record-breaking 19-week concert engagement at the Palace Theater in New York City. It was so successful that she was given a special Tony Award to honor her achievement. Judy Garland had this innate ability to connect with her audiences. She had legions of fans worldwide, and it was well known that she had a large gay following. It's sort of cliche to say, but when she would sing her signature song, Over the Rainbow, about this idyllic place where dreams come true, it resonated very deeply with her gay fan base. Because at that time, homosexuality was considered and treated as a mental illness. It was also illegal in 49 states, including New York. Also during that time in New York City, it was illegal to serve alcohol to a person who was known to be gay. The only places that would do so were operated by organized crime. One such place was the Stonewall Inn in Greenwich Village. It was a dive bar, it operated without a liquor license, and it was constantly being raided by the police. The mafia would pay off the police, and the corrupt officers would tip off the staff ahead of time so that they could hide the alcohol and it wouldn't be confiscated during the raid. They would also conduct the raids early enough in the evening so that once it was all over with, they could go retrieve the hidden booze and business could continue as usual for the rest of the night. Well, for all the care that they took to protect the liquor, nothing was done to protect the patrons. Typically what happened during these raids is patrons were lined up and IDs were checked. Men in drag would automatically be arrested. Women would be pulled aside and have their genitalia groped, ostensibly to prove that they were women. And if they were found to be wearing fewer than 3 pieces of feminine attire, they would also be arrested. Other patrons were extorted for money, and if they refused to pay what the officers were asking, they would be blackmailed. They would be outed to their employers and their landlords, and they risked losing their jobs. They faced eviction from their homes because that sort of discrimination was legal at the time. This sort of abuse that was suffered at the hands of the police was commonplace throughout the 1950s and 60s. On June 22, 1969, Judy Garland died in London. On June 27th, her funeral was held in New York City, and 20,000 fans filed past her casket to pay their respects. Much later that night, the police once again raided Stonewall Inn, but this time something was different. The staff hadn't been tipped off, and they were caught off guard. There's no correlation between the funeral of Judy Garland and Stonewall being raided that night, but what happened next was a divine coincidence because it changed the course of history. The patrons of the Stonewall Inn fought back. They resisted arrest. They refused to be groped. They refused to be extorted. And as the events inside escalated, a crowd started gathering on the street outside to see what was going on. Eventually, the police resorted to force, physically kicking and pushing people out the door. And as this happened, the onlookers outside started to taunt the police by throwing coins at them and saying, "Here, copper, take your bribe." They started singing "We Shall Overcome," which was, of course, an anthem that was sung at civil rights marches. Several corroborated accounts say that a police officer struck a woman with a billy club and physically threw her into a patrol wagon. And when she called out to the crowd for help is when the chaos truly erupted and the rioting began. The crowd had grown exponentially and the uprising continued well into the morning. Violent protests and riots continued for the next several days until order was finally restored. That was the end of the Stonewall uprising, but it marked the beginning of the fight for LGBT equality. Stonewall was considered a watershed moment in the struggle for human rights, a struggle that continues to this day. And on June 24, 2016, President Barack Obama officially dedicated the Stonewall National Monument, and it now is a part of the United States National Park Service. So to honor Judy Garland and the Stonewall uprising, we are going to make a rainbow cocktail. Here's everything we need to make our rainbow cocktail. We need grenadine, clear rum, Luxardo, which is a maraschino liqueur, pineapple juice, sparkling wine, I'm using Prosecco, and blue curacao. Now, rainbow cocktail is part cocktail, part science experiment. We have to do a little preparation before we mix the drink. In a tin, we start with 2.5 ounces of pineapple juice. And to that, we add 1.5 ounces of the clear rum. And 1/2 ounce of the Luxardo. And we're going to give this a good shake to combine. In another container, we are going to add 2.5 ounces of the Prosecco. And to that, we're going to add about 1/2 ounce of the blue Curacao. And then we're going to give that a stir to combine. So now in our glass, we first add the pineapple juice mixture. And then we take our grenadine, and very carefully we're going to pour it down the side of the glass, maybe 1/2 ounce to 3/4 ounce. And you'll notice that it starts to sit at the bottom. Then, with the help of a bar spoon, we add our Prosecco to the top, and we layer it very carefully right on top of the pineapple juice. And then we let physics do its thing, and there we have a rainbow cocktail. Cheers!
If you enjoyed the video, why not give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends? Feel free to leave your comments and click that subscribe button because there's a lot more Broadway Barfly to come.